Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Viravijacharya Satarata Sri Srimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Charge His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Viravijacharya Satarata Sri Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Anantikoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namachar Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sri Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Srimati Tosi Devi Ki Jai. Srimati Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Gaura Premananda Haribo. All glorious assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we're on third canto, right? Chapter 10, text number 15. Adyas tu mahata sargo guna vaishamyam atmanaha dvitiyas tu ahamo yatra dravya jnana kriyodayaha ajastu mahata sargo guna vaishamyam atmanaha dvitiyasvahamo yatra dravya jnana kriyodayaha yadyastu mahata sargo guna vaishamyam atmanaha dvitiyastva ahamo yatra dravya jnana kriyodayaha adyastu mahata sargo guna vaishamyam atmanaha vitiyasva hamo yatra dravya jnana kriyodayaha guna vaishamyam atmanaha Dvitiya svahamo yatra dravya jnana kriyodayaha ajastu mahata sargo guna vaishamyam atmanaha dvitiya svahamo yatra dravya jnana kriyodayaha Adyastu mahata sargo guna vaishamyam atmanaha dvitiyastva hamo yatra dravya jnana kriyodayaha Adyastu mahata sargo guna vaishamyam atmanaha Dviyastvahamo yatra Gyan Kuryodaya Ajastu Mahata Sargo Guna Vaishamyamatmanaha Divitastvahamo yatra Vaishnavis. Adyastu Mahata Sargo Guna Vaishamyamatmanaha Dvitiyastvahamo yatra Synonyms. Adyaha, the first. Two, but. Mahataha, of the total emanation from the Lord. Sargaha, creation. Guna Vaishamyam, interaction of the material modes. Atmanaha, of the Supreme. Dvitiyaha, the second. Two, but. Ahama, false ego. Yatra, wherein. Dravya, material ingredients. Jnana, material knowledge. Kriya udayaha, awakening of activities. Work. Translation purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Of the 9 creations, the first one is the creation of the Mahatattva, or the sum total of the material ingredients, wherein the modes interact due to the presence of the Supreme Lord. In the second, the false ego is generated, in which the material ingredients, material knowledge, and material activities arise. Purport. The first emanation from the Supreme Lord for material creation is called the Mahatattva. The interaction of the material modes is the cause of false identification, or the sense that a living being is made of material elements. This false ego is the cause of identifying the body and mind with the soul proper. Material resources and the capacity and knowledge to work are all generated in the second term of creation, after the Mahatattva. Jnana indicates the senses which are sources of knowledge and their controlling deities. Work entails the working organs and their controlling deities. All these are generated in the second creation. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalaka Chakshu Umbhyanitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Panchakalpa Trubhyasya Kripasan Vivata Paritana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, continuing here with the creation theory. And yesterday, Shyamakund Prabhu gave a very wonderful class explaining about this Mahatattva. So, this Mahatattva is, as we heard yesterday, the total material energy. And it's also called Avyakta. And within this Mahatattva, all the ingredients are there, as we heard yesterday. All the ingredients are within the Mahatattva for the creation. And this Mahatattva is actually agitated by the glance of the Supreme Lord. When Krishna glances at the Mahatattva, then immediately the 3 modes of material nature are activated. And by this interaction of the 3 modes, then the whole cosmic manifestation happens. So, what was kind of really intriguing is that within this Mahatattva are all the living entities, but they're like in a dormant state, like pradhana, this like dormant state. And what's interesting is that Krishna, he agitates it by his glance. And the minute that he agitates it, the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, they arise. And then the living entity takes a body according to that mode of nature, goodness, passion, or ignorance. And it's stored. It's like a storehouse, which is really fascinating. That it's just in a storehouse waiting for Krishna to get it agitated, to function, to create. And then it happens. The whole creation happens. It's incredible, this creation theory. In the course of all that, of course, the living entity is just waiting in this sleep, this deep sleep. And when we awaken, we find that all of a sudden we've forgotten everything, who we are, that we're a spirit soul. Everything is forgotten because the false ego is created by the modes of material nature. And that false ego covers the living entity. Krishna even says in the Bhagavad Gita, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmini sarvasha ahankara vimudha kartaham iti manyate. Krishna says that the spirit soul, influenced by false ego, thinks himself to be the doer of activities which are actually carried out by material nature. And that material nature are the three modes of material nature. They're carried out. That's what's causing all this activity. And due to our desire or from our activities from previous birth, we have the body today that we acquired by the material energy, by the interaction. So this is the covering nature of the three modes of material nature. It covers us to the point where a gross materialist is convinced by this false ego that they're actually this material body. And that he's the doer of everything. We kind of like are born that way. We think we're the doer of everything. We take credit for everything we do independently. Like we think we're independent. It's by our strength, by our nature, who we are. And this independent nature is developed. And of course, we understand that that nature is a symptom of deep ignorance. And from that, they think that they're the body. And they go so far as even to think that the land that they took birth is sacred. Wherever they were born, they think that it's the object of worship. Mother India, Mother Russia, US of A. Everybody's thinking wherever they take birth that this is a worshipful place because I took birth there. Basically, this is the problem. This is how covered over the living entity becomes. But because of these designations, we get so sidetracked. We get sidetracked into thinking about social activity, social work, altruism, I don't know, what else is there? Sense gratification, nationalism. There's so many isms that we become attracted to and overcome and overwhelmed with. And practically speaking, on that level, spiritual realization is practically a myth. I do know that before I joined Krishna consciousness, I actually thought spiritual life was a myth, that it was just simply some jargon, that there was nothing really to it. It was just some people had some kind of idea. And this is what happens when you're really on the bodily platform of life. We think that spiritual emancipation is actually a myth. It's not real. It's just people that are a little bit crazy. So, what was another interesting point in this verse was that in the word for word, Prabhupada identified Kriya Udayaha, awakening of activities or work. So, one of the natural ingredients of a living entity is activity, work. Some kind of work has to be done. And we see that when we come to this material world, from the very beginning of your life, you're told about you got to work. You have to do something, some activity, some work. So this is very it's a double-edged sword, because you have to work, you want to work, but if you work on a material platform, you get more bound up. You don't get freed, you get more bound up. What's that verse? Yagnarta karmano niyatra, right? Tad artam karma kunte mukta sangha samachara. Yes. In that verse, Krishna says that work has to be done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. Otherwise, work binds one to this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction and become freed from bondage. So everything we do is bondage in this material world. If we do it for sense gratification, if we do it for our senses. So, yes, we have to work, therefore we work, but we should work for the satisfaction of Vishnu. Here it's described we have to work. It's our nature to move, to do things. And if we work for Krishna, we can become liberated. So this is the Krishna conscious movement is a perfect source of the art of working. The art of working is in Krishna consciousness. You can see we have to do activity, but if you work for Krishna, you become liberated. Otherwise, you become bound up. And it can be even for a good cause. It can be for nationalism. It can be for welfare activity for someone. You can try to become a doctor or nurse, and you can try to help humanity. But that doesn't relieve one. We still get more and more bound up on the bodily platform of life. Only when you work for Krishna, Vishnu, does one become liberated. There's no other way. And the Krishna conscious movement that's set up by Srila Prabhupada, we need that guidance, that expert guidance from a pure soul to teach us how to work through the material world, how to get out of the material world. It takes expert guidance, and that's the purpose of a pure devotee, especially like someone like Srila Prabhupada. And by the association of that pure devotee, we can learn the art of work, and that's Krishna consciousness. Everything we do in this movement is very scientific. It's not mental concoction. Rising in the morning during Brahma Muhurta hours, this is not a concoction. It's scientific to get up that early, to chant Krishna's name, to come and worship the deity, to chant your rounds. All these things, to hear Bhagavatam, Srinvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana, you hear that sound vibration, you become purified. Your existence becomes completely purified. And you can get rid of all this bondage, this baggage that we're all carrying. Each and every one of us, we think we're this body. On a daily basis, we struggle and fight with that. The minute we get sick, we think we're this body. It's hard to go above these modes. And especially in the Bhagavatam, it speaks about the disqualifications of the living entity. It says, Prayena alpa yusa sabya kalavach me yuge manda sumanda matino manda bhagyu padritaha. It says in this Kali Yuga, we have short life, first of all. We don't have a long life. You can die at any moment in Kali Yuga. Also, in Kali Yuga, we're misguided. We're always being cheated, misguided. We're unlucky. We're so unlucky. I'm sure each and every one of us have some kind of a unlucky situation. Yes, and misguided, cheated all the time. And lazy. In Kali Yuga, people are actually lazy. More so for realization, for self-realization. If you speak about self-realization to people in society today, they don't have time for it. They're too busy working hard to, get some money, get my position or whatever. This is Kali Yuga. Lazy for spiritual emancipation, realization. Whatever. It's a myth. It's simply a myth. And then it says that above all, always disturbed. Isn't it so? If you see a ukulele, if we're honest, we're always disturbed. Can you imagine one day that you're not disturbed? Can anyone tell me one day where we don't get disturbed? About the littlest things? It's a symptom of Kali Yuga. We're always disturbed about something. Because we think we're this body, we think we're this mind, and then if it doesn't go the way we want it, or immediately we're disturbed. The nature of that's who we are. That's our identity in this age of Kali Yuga. And this is all due, of course, to the bodily platform of life. So we need that association of a great soul, like Srila Prabhupada, a pure devotee of the Lord, that can guide us through all this craziness in the material world. And he's giving us the formula. We simply need to follow that formula. And it's a very simple one, if we want to get out of this material world. You know, we're infinitesimal little living entities. Mamaivam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manasastan indriyani pakrutistani karshati. We're just a fragment, little speck. In fact, you can't even see it, is how small we are. Yes. We're these living entities ourselves. We're all conditioned in this material world, and we're fragmental parts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And due to our conditioned life, we're all struggling very hard with our six senses, which includes the mind. We struggle every single day in this material world because of those things, the six senses and the mind. So this is our identity. This is who we are. We struggle like anything when we're in this material platform of the body. So because we're fragmental parts of Krishna, we're eternally in that position. That's not some temporary. This is eternally. And when we say fragmental, it's not that we're like cut up or something, because in the Bhagavad Gita it says the soul cannot be withered by the wind, it cannot be cut, it cannot be moistened. So that fragment part is eternal. So we're eternally fragmental parts of Krishna. And we're separated energy from Krishna too. Like we're not like Vishnu Tattva, Lord Ramachandra, or Varaha, Lord Nrsimha. These are Vishnu Tattva. We're separated energies of Lord, but we're very tiny little individual souls. And we're like that eternally. And not only that, but because we're parts of Krishna, parts and parcels of Krishna, we actually have some of the qualities of Krishna in a very minute form, very teeny form. And one of those qualities that Krishna has is called independence. So we have same independence, but in a very small, minute way. And that independence is essential for going back home, back to Godhead, or staying in this material world in bondage for eternity. That's that independence that we've been given. And it's teeny on top of that. So if we work in this material world, we are bound up. We'll be bound up for eternity, and we'll go again into Mahatattva after the annihilation. Or if we utilize our independence for serving Krishna, then we can get out of this particular mess that we're in. So we can become liberated. But in our conditioned life, when we're conditioned in this material world, yes, we forget the loving service of the Lord. This is what happens. We forget how to lovingly serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead if we misuse our independence. So the whole Krishna conscious movement is to help us to get rid of this binding, this bound up situation that we're in, scientifically. And it's not an easy thing. We see that this material existence is very powerful. Our attachment to this material world is increasingly overwhelming. It doesn't decrease. I know that you're younger, it kind of just dwindles a little bit, but it doesn't really go away. It's always there with you, all the time. But it's only by the mercy of the spiritual master and Krishna that we can actually overcome this. So in the Atasi Krishna Namari, what's that? Navaved Indra, Seva Mukha Hijavado, Swayam Eva Spuratyada. Yes. That in this material world, the senses can't appreciate the activities of the Lord. They're very difficult. We can't appreciate it very much. Very, very hard. The activities, the names, the holy name of the Lord. These things are insurmountable. And pastimes of the Lord. It's very difficult to appreciate them. But it does say that if the conditioned soul somehow is awakened to Krishna consciousness, somehow or other, if we're awakened to it, then doing service, just a little bit of service with the tongue by chanting Hare Krishna and by taking Krishna Prasadam, then the tongue is controlled. And then if the tongue is controlled, it says that one can understand Krishna as he is. Just by those processes. Can you imagine? Just by chanting daily Hare Krishna 16 rounds and just eating prasadam. And you don't even have to cook it in the Krishna conscious movement. You don't even cook it. You just kind of know it's going to be there. You make sure you're down in the prasadam hall, at prasadam time. And you just sit down and you just say, well, I don't like that today. Get it out of here. I'm not eating that today. You don't have to cook it, but it's there for you. And if you like it, you'll eat it. If you don't want to eat it. Or you'll gripe about it. Go to the cook and say, I'm really getting upset. You're not cooking the proper. So we don't have to cook it even. But it says that if you just eat it, even if you don't like it, if you just eat it, this Krishna Prasadam, you can become liberated. Just by eating it. And then chanting Hare Krishna. So we're in a situation which is really unique. This Krishna conscious movement is offering us a very simple process of getting out of the material world. And we sometimes don't even want to take it. We don't even want to take it. Nah, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to go out and work and I'm going to get it. It doesn't mean that you don't work out there because not everybody can live in the temple, let's face it. Point being is everyone has their karma and they can do what they have to do, but they should also include Krishna in their life. That's the point. Adding Krishna, adding chanting Hare Krishna, offer the food to Krishna, have deities in the home. This is what a person should do that works in the material world. They're not excluded, and neither should they be stopped from doing their activity because it's their nature. How do you tell a multi-billionaire to stop doing it? No. But we tell them, add this to your life. Add Krishna. Offer your food, chant Hare Krishna, and make your gazillion dollars. No difficulty. We appreciate that. But give something to Krishna too. So, yes, Kalir Dosha Nidhe Rajan Asti Hi Eko Mahangana Kirtanar Eva Krishnasya Mukta Bandha Samanvitaha. Okay, yeah. What's that? Yeah, Mukta Sangha, there it is. Thank you. Mukta Sangha, yes. This is the process. That in Kali Yuga, there's so many faults in Kali Yuga. It's tons of faults. But there's one good thing in this age of Kali Yuga. And that is that by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, one can become freed from bondage and go into the spiritual world. We can become freed from it. Although there's so many difficulties and problems and anxieties, we can become freed from material bondage. And we can enter into the transcendental kingdom of Krishna. Now, this is what Krishna says. This isn't speculation, somebody just thought. No, it's actually a fact. That if we just simply chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we can get rid of all this bondage that we're involved in this material world. So, when I was reading this verse, this is the things I was thinking about, especially about the bondage that is created when we get involved in the false ego, and also working. How do we work? How do you work your way out of this material world? So I was thinking in those particular terms. And if we do it very nicely and according to the instruction given to us by Srila Prabhupada, we can go home back to Godhead. There's no doubt about it. Yes. Krishna Varnam Tisa Krishna Sango Pangasya Parsadam Yagnai Sankirtan Parnaya Yajante Hi Sumera Saha. It says that if one is endowed with sufficient intelligence in this age of Kali Yuga, it says that if we are endowed with this intelligence and we worship the Lord and along with his associates and join the Sankirtan movement, one can become liberated. So this is the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's giving us this opportunity to join his team. And tomorrow, World Enlightenment Day, Ki Jai. This is Lord Chaitanya's team. We can join that. We can join that whole process of liberating so many people. Just by them touching a book, Prabhupada said, they can become liberated. By hearing just a few words out of the book, they can begin their spiritual life and eventually become liberated from the bondage of this material world. So we do this service because this is what the spiritual master, the expert guide, encourages us to do. Prabhupada's the expert guide for us to get out of this material world. And he's saying, if you do this, then you can, I'll help you. I'll give you the intelligence. He'll work with you. Prabhupada will work with you. You just simply read his words. You'll associate with him in his Vani. And this is what Krishna consciousness is about. So I thought I'd take the last couple of minutes and just read some really great stuff, just to remind us about how important it is to actually be part of the Sankirtan movement. These are just a couple of excerpts that we'll end the class with. This is one where Prabhupada states, this material world, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, is a blazing fire of material existence. The only thing that can extinguish the fire is the rain of mercy coming from the spiritual master in the form of his instructions, guiding us in Krishna consciousness. The books Srila Prabhupada left us are drops of this rain of mercy. Okay. Something else here by Srila Prabhupada. Preaching is our real business. Preaching and distributing books. If your preaching work is strong, then your management of temple affairs will also become automatically very strong. Just like if the head wills, the hand will move. Preaching is like the head of our Krishna conscious society. If the head is removed, the whole body dies. Managing is the hands, which work nicely if the head is healthy. If the hands are removed, the body will not die, but it will be crippled. So preaching is more important than management, but both must be there if the whole body is to operate nicely. A couple more. This is another one, Prabhupada, purport. Non-violence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body, but actually, non-violence means not to put others into distress. People in general are trapped by ignorance in the material concept of life, and they perpetually suffer material pains. So unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. One should try his best to distribute real knowledge to the people so that they may become enlightened and leave this material entanglement. That is non-violence. One last one. A letter by Srila Prabhupada. Regarding your question, actually it is a fact that ultimately everyone should preach and distribute books if they want to please me in the best way. Book distribution must be given stress always. If you do this sincerely, it is a fact that Krishna will supply everything else required. I blindly follow my Guru Maharaj. I do not know what is the result, so I am stressing on this point of book distribution. He told me this personally. Book distribution is Bhagavat Marg, and temple worship is Pancharatriki, Vidhi. Both are important for cultivating Vaishnavism, but comparatively speaking, Bhagavat Marg is more important than Pancharatriki Vidhi. As far as possible, both should go on in parallel lines, but still Bhagavat Marg is more important than the other. So you are all intelligent boys, so you should judge the desire of my Guru Maharaj and help me in that way. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. See you all tomorrow. Thank you.